Welcome everybody to Stone on Sports Live. What are we talking about today? It's hard being a Habs fan lately, right? It's hard to stay positive in Montreal. It's hard, just watching this team and watching this team go through everything that it is that they're going through. Okay, we know it's been a little bit of a tough season to say the least. The defense is in shambles. The team can't score. And of course, the goaltending hasn't been, that's my coffee machine, of course. And of course, the goaltending has been subpar for most of the season. But nonetheless, I took to Twitter. And of course, thanks to everybody who responded, who answered. I asked you guys over here on this document that you guys should be seeing up on your screen in just a second. I asked you guys, are you still watching the games? Right? Are there any positives? So I tweeted out, all right, Habs fans and Go Habs Go fans, doing a live stream tomorrow around 1 p.m. Eastern, and I want to know, are you still watching the games? If yes, what keeps you coming back? What are you looking at exactly? Tag, retweet, whatever. Bobby, a really diehard fan, of course, said he's been following this team for 40 plus years. What else am I going to do? I laughed and I said this tongue in cheek. I said, not watch them, And then I asked Brendan Smiley, of course, who writes for for Hockey Buzz. That was where I started, actually. And I asked him, what positives does he see? What is he looking for exactly? And he said that he's looking towards the draft, right? That they need to make sure they move guys like Plekanec, Niemi, and Ben at the deadline and play the kids more. Now, that seems to be like a bit of a recurring theme with Habs fans and bloggers, and you'll see I spoke to a multitude of people who are from all Habs and have podcasts and all that, and all of their responses were really, really interesting. But there is a common thread that kind of unites Habs fans, when he talks about the draft, of course, the idea right now is that the Montreal Canadiens should be tanking. Right, that they should be trying to make it so that they guarantee themselves a really high draft pick. I think everybody kind of understands how that works and how that goes. But for some reason, the Canadiens win a couple of games, lose a couple of games, win, work really hard, impress us, make themselves look way better than what their record indicates. But unfortunately, that's just not going to cut it. In their last 10 games, they have lost 9 games. They've been shut out 3 times. They've scored a grand total of 8 goals in the last 10 games. So ask yourselves, is this exactly the way that you want things to go? Is this exactly how you want the team to perform moving forward in order to try to get, they talk about Rasmus Dahlin or Dahlin or whatever his name is. I, couldn't care less. But is that the guy that we want to go after? There are a couple of other decent draft picks out there for sure. But for the time being, I guess people are hoping that, it's all in for Dahlin. Now, if you keep moving here, Brendan Smiley mentioned moving Plekanec, Niemi, and Ben at the deadline. Now, the thing about Plekanec is I thought that his value was at the highest back in 2015. Before that, you remember the horrendous 2015-2016 regular season schedule? I had put out an article on Hockey Buzz at the time saying, look, the man had 24 goals and 60 points. You have to trade him. He's an upcoming, he's becoming a UFA at the end of that year. You have to trade him. You have to, his value was really high. You could have gotten at least a second round draft pick for him. There are people out there who speculate and who believe that you can get a second round draft pick for Thomas Plekanec right now. Some are, ambitious enough to say that you can even get a first round draft pick, which I find kind of strange because, if you look at Martin Hanzal and what he fetched last year, it was kind of mind-blowing because, in my opinion, besides obviously Hanzal having a bigger body and all, Plekanec is still more offensive-oriented, even though he fell off after signing that 2-year, $12 million extension. I know we don't get to see much of that that same playmaking prowess and all. He has a tendency to stick more to his, his defensive tasks. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way that it is. Niemi, yeah, he's playing well. So if anybody needs a backup going into the playoffs or whatever, cool. I don't see you getting more than like a 4th round pick for Niemi, honestly. And Jordy Ben, Jordy Ben's had a hot and cold season. He had instances where he looked great and looked like he was worth the $1 million that the organization is paying him. But then, much like the rest of the defense, if you're not playing in the role that you're supposed to be in, if you're a number 5 or a number 6 defenseman, and you're being forced to play as a number 3 or as a number 4, that it's going to wear you down. You don't get the ideal matchups, unfortunately. And of course, having Shea Weber injured for as long as he has, what's it been, like almost 30 games now that he hasn't played, with his broken foot that he sustained against the Buffalo Sabres on opening night. That forces everybody to kind of have to play, punch above their weight, so to speak. Now, I asked Blaine and Willie, I hope it's Willie, not Wiley, but I asked Blaine and Willie, and, they have a great podcast called Habs Unfiltered, excuse me. That's Lewis and Gibby who have Have a Listen, if I'm not mistaken, as part of the All Habs family. And they said, we'll watch them all. Well, yeah, I know you're going to watch them all. The question isn't so much, are you going to watch them all? It's, despite the tough season, what positives do you see? Now, I want to point out that Brendan mentioned that play the kids more, that he wants to see the kids play more and get a better chance and a better opportunity. So Blaine and Willie pointed out Victor Mete, which has been, obviously, he's been great. He's had a handful of bad games, which is mind-boggling for such a young rookie, especially a smaller defenseman. He's not a big-bodied defenseman. He skates incredibly well. He's got great vision. He passes really well. He's very good in his own end most of the time. I mean, he could still brush up on that. But Blaine had written an article that I thought was really interesting, and he was talking about the future with Claude Julien and how it's important to build that kind of winning mentality. And the interesting thing is that he mentioned Mete and how he needs a little bit of work on his shooting, which is true. You do need a little bit of work. He does need a little bit of work on his shooting because obviously it's his weak point. You kind of saw it yesterday against the Arizona Coyotes. Like, he took a shot at something and just sailed way over the net. Now, I'm not saying he'll never know how to shoot, but it kind of makes me think of like PK Subban back in the day. You guys remember when he used to wind up the puck and wind up his stick and shoot it with everything that he's got? Well, then he learned to put it more on net and to take wristers or snapshots as opposed to just going for pure brute strength. Now, Victor Mete isn't necessarily the kind of guy who's trying to, score off of one-timers on the power play or anything like that. I see him more as a setup kind of defenseman. But either way, his season has been really good. So I don't blame anybody for saying that they want to watch Victor Mete play because he's been really good. There's Nikita Sherbak as well. Rather ordinary yesterday against the Arizona Coyotes. But every time I see this guy play, I keep forgetting just how big he is. That is a big-bodied, offensively gifted player. This guy is a top 6 forward, guaranteed. Is it now? Has his time come now to shine? I don't know. Will it come in maybe a year? Perhaps, but it's a good opportunity for him right now to seize the opportunity that Claude Julien, the head coach, of course, has offered to him. And he's looked pretty decent with Galchenyuk. Galchenyuk's overall game is improving as well, as Blaine and Willie point out. And I totally agree. If you go through my timeline, the number of times from the beginning of the year that I point out an Alex Galchenyuk back check and how effective he was back checking, coming back and helping his defensemen. And, he's been really good defensively all year. This isn't something that's recent. It's been all year since the beginning of the season. I tried to pay extra attention to Galchenyuk and his back checking, his defensive duties. And to tell you the truth, that's one of the main reasons why I tune in, because Alex Galchenyuk is my favorite player on this team. It used to be Thomas Plekanec, but I like to be entertained. Okay, I was a hockey fan before I became a Canadiens fan specifically, and watching Alex Galchenyuk, I mean, he's one of the most talented players in the league. Anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is gravely mistaken. This guy can dangle, he can pass, he can shoot, he can skate, he can do it all, and he's got a big body. I think he's 6'2" or something. So I really like how Alex Galchenyuk has improved, especially defensively. So you never know. Maybe he will eventually go back to the center ice position, which I really hope he does, because I'm tired of seeing him on the wing. Yes, he's blowing it up lately. I think he has 20x points, and I don't have the stats in front of me. I would pull them out, but he has 20-something points in the last 20-something games. So he's really, really, found his form, which is great. It's good for the organization in the sense that I hope to God that they do not trade this guy. Don't trade Alex Galchenyuk. You need him. He just turned 24. He's a huge part of this team moving forward. That's the way that I see it. So I agree. Gallagher proving he's recovered. Nowhere else to go but up. It's true. This is the kind of season that, unfortunately, I hate using this term because I find it's a bit of a cop-out, but to call something a season a write-off, I find that cheap. That's a cheap argument to make, because you're not really supposed to have write-off seasons. You know what I mean? For somebody like Carey Price, okay, I'll say this. For somebody like Carey Price, yes, you want to have he's having a write-off season. It's not a good season for Carey Price. Something's wrong with him. Something's always wrong with Carey Price, as I've mentioned a million times, which is why I never wanted him to re-sign here in Montreal. I understand the value that he brings. Don't close the stream, okay? I know how valuable he is. I just didn't think that it was worth it business-wise to keep Carey Price, and obviously you guys know how I feel about that. Now, with regards to Gallagher, once he stood in front of a goaltender and he broke his hand or his fingers in his hand by blocking a shot. Same thing again the following year. So he broke his hand twice. And now look at him, 21 goals, and he's the second leading points getter on this Montreal Canadiens team after, are you ready for this? You guys ready for this, right? Max Pacioretty is in the lead right now. I know, it's nuts because he is scoring nowhere near at the pace or at the regularity that he usually does, but he's still leading the Montreal Canadiens. I don't want to see Pacioretty get traded either. I really don't. If there is significant value, I can understand. Is he fed up? Yes. I'll tell you guys a story quickly on about Pacioretty. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and his wife is a flight attendant, and Max Pacioretty happened to be on the plane. Now, this is what I hear. I can't confirm this. Okay, I'm not saying this as a matter of fact. I'm just explaining to you guys what I've been told. Apparently, the way Max Pacioretty is treated by people is absolutely disgusting. Not by the flight attendant or anything like that. But apparently, people have the balls, the courage to actually walk up to Max Pacioretty and tell him to show a little more heart. Now, remember, these are not hockey fans who are telling me this, okay? And apparently, they have the courage to talk down to somebody who's a professional hockey player who, despite the ups and downs in his confidence, no matter what, yes, we know he's a streaky player. He hasn't scored, I think, in 7 or 8 games, and he scored in 9 games prior to that. I understand that. But show a little respect. If you see Max Pacioretty, how about you encourage him for a change? How about we encourage the team for a change? I know I've been a detractor myself, and I apologize. But at the same time, you can't blame me, because I wanted to see certain changes made within this organization and within this team and the player personnel. And year after year, it's the same thing over and over again. And it's starting to get a little tiresome, if you ask me. Now, Gallagher is proving that he's recovered. You nailed it, Blaine. And that was a great article, by the way. You guys should check it out. I'll put up a link. He posted the link there at some point on that Twitter thread. So feel free to go check that out. Now, Lacoste David 66 is, he's asking for what a lot of fans are asking for. He's saying that we have more dropping to do in the standings, as in, like, you have to go for losses and try to get that really good pick. Rook Santia Visualize says, I'm watching because I love the sport. I roll my eyes a million times a game, though, but mostly I love to watch the endless effort and great leadership from Gallagher. Hopefully it's his last year as alternate captain. So thank you for your comment, by the way, Rooks, and everybody who responded. Now, what's interesting is Rooks makes a good point. She makes a point that a lot of people are making. Not that I don't think it's original or anything like that, but a lot of people are calling for Brendan Gallagher to be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. Here's the thing. I don't live in the past, but I've covered this years ago. When they had 4 alternate captains and they hadn't named the captain yet. It's important to remember something. Max Pacioretty was unanimously, or so we're told, right? This is what's being reported, or what had been reported. Max Pacioretty was unanimously voted in as team captain. Unanimously. This includes, apparently, at the time, guys like PK Subban and Brendan Gallagher and Andrei Markov and Thomas Plekanec. All these guys were on the team at the time. And apparently it was unanimous. And Carey Price, of course, it's important to mention him as well. But you have to give credit where credit's due. Brendan Gallagher, to me, Brendan Gallagher should have been the captain from the get-go. Not that I think Max Pacioretty isn't a good captain. I think he's a decent captain. I really do. I think he leads by example. And realistically, when your best player is a 35 to close to 40 goal scorer regularly every season, you got to make that guy your captain. Because he wins you games practically single-handedly. So a lot of people are, they want to see Brendan Gallagher be the next captain. I don't know if the C or an A or no letter at all affects Brendan Gallagher's game. I think what you see is what you get with Brendan Gallagher. He has a decent shot. You have to have a decent, first of all, you have to have a decent shot to play in the NHL, to even make it, to even play on the 4th line. You have to be a decent shooter. But I think that's an underrated part of his game. Yes, he likes to score those, garbage goals, those grinder goals, or whatever you want to call them. But he knows where to go and he deflects pucks. So you have to have a pretty decent hand-eye coordination to do that. And I got to give it to somebody like Brendan Gallagher. He is definitely a bright spot in the miserable 2017-2018 regular season. Skills, a brilliant young lady, by the way, very knowledgeable in sports psychology, someone that I really, really love talking to on a regular basis. I love talking to all you guys, I really do. But there are certain people who are my favorites, like, I can't deny it. And she pointed something, she says that she watches for Brendan Gallagher and the young guys' development. Now that seems to be, once again, the recurring theme here, right? That's the thread that unites Habs fans everywhere. We aren't immune to bad years. Skills adds Mete, Lehkonen, Price, Lindgren, Weber, Gallagher, Drouin, Carr, Udon, Chucky, Byron are guys I still have hope for. Others too, but those guys jump out the most. I also love watching Delorier. And I said, you're not talking about Byron Frace now, are you? And too bad, because Delorier sat out last night. Whatever, it's okay. He's an energy guy who can occasionally chip in with a goal. He works hard, and a lot of people question, why would you take him out of the lineup? I'll tell you why. Because there is a guy like Jacob de la Rose that I look forward to watching. I'm curious to see how this guy develops, because I honestly do think that this guy has a hint of offensive upside that we have yet to see. But, again, we have yet to see it, right? And I want to see Jacob de la Rose progress. That's one of the reasons I tune in as well. I've liked him from, when Michel Therrien said, watch out for this guy and expect the unexpected with this kid, because he's got a lot more potential than he's shown. Time's ticking, Jacob de la Rose, because as of right now, you're replaceable, unfortunately. She mentions Lehkonen. Listen, I know how Habs fans feel about Artturi Lehkonen. I remember last year against the Rangers, he had a really, really, really good playoffs. He seems to be trending in the right direction. Yes, he's already had a couple of injuries in his young career, which, by the way, you heard it here first, is going to be a problem moving forward with this young man, because This young man. I'm 30 years old, and here I am sitting with this young man. Holy smokes. Getting old. Feel back pain coming soon, you know? Anywho, the issue with Lehkonen is I feel like he's a little overrated. I do. Because I feel like here in Montreal, we have a tendency to over-evaluate our players. Now, I know some of you out there are going, well, isn't this the same dude who just said that he likes Jacob de la Rose and he's saying he doesn't like Lehkonen? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe Lehkonen is a little overrated. I think his ceiling is at the 20, 25 goal marks, but are we going to see that in the next year or two? I hope so. I think he has it in him, but is he a bona fide like 30 goal scorer? I don't know, to be completely frank. I don't know. I like Lehkonen. I really do, and I think he's very intelligent, and I don't need to be the one to tell you because it's everywhere, and everybody reports on it, and everybody writes on it, even though I really don't pay attention to what people write anymore. I think most of it is trash, to be completely honest, and that's why I came to you guys, you know? That's why I asked you guys, what do you think? What do you think, and what are you looking for? People want to see what the future of this team looks like, and Skills over here, Skills_25, mentioned Drouin as well, and Daniel Carr, Lindgren, really good choice. I really like the fact that you pointed out those guys. Of course, Victor Mete, it's a given, right? Barring any injuries, this guy is going to be a solid, and I would say, ideally a number 3 defenseman. He can play like a number 2, right, in the new age NHL with speed and skill and talent and all these kinds of things. But for me, in an ideal world, if Weber's there, Petrie, and whoever the hell else they manage to get their hands on, left-handed puck-moving defenseman, ideally. I don't want to live in the past once again, but we gave up quite a few of those. But anywho, I would really like to see Victor Mete kind of slot into that third defensive role. And Drouin, well, I don't know. I'm not feeling Drouin. I'm really not. He's enigmatic. That's the thing. I think everybody knows that he has the ability to be an exceptional superstar. But I don't know. I'm very, very disappointed. Probably because he's disappointed. Probably because when he was brought in, he was probably over-evaluated. Or rather, I should say, Marc Bergevin probably oversold the team to him. Yes, he was acquired via trade. I'm aware of that. He wasn't signed as an unrestricted free agent, but he did choose to re-sign for 5 years with the Canadiens. And I don't know. Maybe he's just not feeling the vibe in Montreal. I don't really know how else to put it. But losing and losing and losing and losing it's got to wear down on you. You know, it probably drags you down quite a bit. Joshua Gabay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Joel. Sorry if I don't. JJB. We'll call you JJB. That's a JJG. Oh, that's tough. JJG. He says he's only listening. I asked if there were any positives, and he made a really good point. He said, not really. It's hard to enjoy listening to the broadcasts when even the play-by-play guys are disheartened. Go listen to TSN 690 at the end of every game. And when I think usually Sean Campbell is the one doing the... he's usually the one doing the post-game shows with his buddy Mitch Gallo. Don't always agree with everything they say, completely irrelevant. But they always take the time to talk to Dan Robertson or Sergio Momesso afterwards. And go listen to Sergio Momesso. Man, that guy sounds like he's depressed, honestly. And I'm making light of the situation. Depression is no joke. But he sounds depressed because every time he's covering the team and he's doing the commentary, you can tell that this guy, he has the Montreal Canadiens tattooed on his heart. He loves this team. He was a part of it. And he wants to see them succeed, but they're not giving him anything. And I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way. I can't imagine what it must be like being a beat reporter these days. What kind of questions can you ask? Besides the normal stupid questions that they usually ask and all that trash. But anywho, that's a conversation for another time under different circumstances, if you catch my drift. Bobby, Montreal Design, who said, I've been watching him for 40 years earlier, mentions he's a big picture kind of guy, so he doesn't really see any positives on this current team. The team needs major changes moving forward on ice and off. And by off, of course, he means with regards to management. I don't think he's the biggest Marc Bergevin fan. Just putting it out there, Bobby. And on the ice, of course, well, there needs to be a bit of a different... there needs to be better players. And, you know, he's looking at Chucky, Alex Galchenyuk, and Nikita Scherbak as well, which, honestly, those are fine choices right there. Those are really good choices. I agree. It's good that Scherbak is there. I hope he sticks around because let's see what he can really do. Let's see him like really light it up because I think for the time being he only has 3 points in his last. In I believe he's played 7 games or something like that. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I really don't feel like pulling out the stats right now. Naveen Chiari says she's not watching much. She watched 1 game in the last month. I'm sure you're not alone, Naveen. C. Mark Brown, CMB, says the young forwards here now and the prospects to come, even though there aren't any apparently. Which I retorted, well, I sense a hint of sarcasm in the last bit of your tweet. He says, I will neither confirm or deny. I like C. Mark Brown, I'll tell you why. Because he's an Eagles fan, and I've loved the Eagles since the Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens days. And, of course, he's a Lakers fan, and I've loved the Lakers since the Kobe and Shaq days. Anybody who knows me knows that number 8 jersey that I used to wear back in high school, man, if I could, I would have worn it every single day. So, yeah, Nick. Now, Nick is a cool guy. Hey, it's Nick. I've heard him call into the radio station a couple of times, and I really like very well-spoken, very intelligent human being. And congratulations, by the way, man. I think you got into law. You were mentioning a couple of weeks ago or something. Good on you, man. Ladies, up-and-coming young lawyer in the States. Just saying. Hooking you up, brother. Now, he says he watches games when he can, which feels like less often than usual now that they're losing. But in a lost cause like this season, he focuses on the youngsters, like most people, and less of the players who don't have a long-term future with this organization. Who are we talking about? Who knows? And finally, I want to look at Christian Ravary, who says he doesn't really watch anymore, to be honest, and it's fine. You know, Habs have been postponing for too long a rebuild and youth shift, in his opinion. I hope MB trades, Marc Bergevin trades away Pacioretty, Plekanec, and maybe other defensemen if possible. Go after big fish this summer and tank for high picks. 47 was a big loss. Now, 47, of course, he's referring to Alexander Radulov. And he says losing 47, in my opinion, is a problem with tax differences, which you can't really control, across the league, where Canadian teams have to overpay to get an unrestricted free agent. And it's not worth it. Drafting and developing is crucial. Timmins has done well. I think a lot of people would agree with you with regards to that, especially when it comes to draft picks like Victor Mete, who correct me if I'm mistaken, he was chosen like 100th overall in 2016, the same year that Mikhail Sergachev was selected with the 9th overall pick by the Montreal Canadiens. Not bad. And he doesn't like Claude Julien, which, it is what it is. If you don't like Claude Julien's defensive, old-school style, I really don't know what to tell you. Now, I want to hop over to Twitter over here just to see what is going on. Let's go take a look over here. Right. Hey, my stuff is bad. Not much more like things you keep. No. Just trying to see. Genesis Johnny North also had mentioned, who's really cool, by the way. Johnny North is he's a wrestler, but at the same time, he's also on Wrestling Uncensored with David Simon on TSN 690, Saturday night after the Habs games. That's usually where he's at. So check him out. Now, I am trying to find here, let's see. Treg Wilson also mentioned, watch every game if I can. See a lot of good and a whole lot of bad. So they are the Habs, so win or lose, or shut out lost, Habs fan until I die. So a lot of people probably feel the same way, Treg. And just looking over here. Hey, my stuff's a bit better than trash. I don't understand. My stuff is a tad better than trash. Well, not much better. More like things you keep and mean to throw out, but never get around to it. Like a container you might use one day at the very least. I don't understand what you're referring to. I never said, Andrew, anything that you do is trash, bro. So I really have no idea what you're referring to, man. My bad. And Scott Thompson, ready to throw Julien out with the trash. Others close like our supposed world-class goalie and captain, perhaps the worst in our history. Max a leader equals bullshit. Scott, settle down, Scott. I've told you, you don't need to get this mad. It's pointless. All right? I don't know why my stuff is a tad better than trash. Well, no, I never said anything like that, bro. I have no idea what you're referring to. So, anywho, that's how people feel pretty much about the Montreal Canadiens. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else. Am I missing anything, Alex? What about on YouTube? Do I have any comments or anything like that? Live chat. Trying to see here. Yeah, looks like we're fine. No, we're good? Okay. Well, anywho, so just to summarize, essentially, look, it is a tough season. I think that goes without saying. It's not easy being a Habs fan, to watch a team that has been glorious for so long, for so many years, with so many Stanley Cups. It's hard seeing them go through this. But big picture, there is a group of young players that can help shape the future of this team. Victor Mete, Alex Galchenyuk, Jonathan Drouin, there's Nikita Sherbak, there is Arturi Lehkonen, there is Brendan Gallagher. Well, he's starting to get a little older, but am I thinking? There's Noah Juleson, who's supposed to be really good as a defenseman, of course. I'm curious to know why people are so. It's normal that there's a lot of negativity. People expect this team to win, and they still expect them to win year in and year out. But on StoneOnSports.com, I have written articles about how a rebuild or a retool or a soft reset, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's important to make the changes appropriately. I don't know if Carey Price is necessarily going to help this team hoist the Stanley Cup. But what is that? Twitter? All right, let's go look at Twitter here. 1 second. You took it too literal. Just said most of the stuff out there is trash. Jokes don't go down well. Oh, no. You listen, Andrew, buddy. When I say trash, I'm not referring to people who like yourself or Brendan or Blaine or Treg or anybody at all Habs or Stone on Sports. I'm telling you, no, not not you at all. Trust me. If I share your article, if I get a chance to read your articles, guys, and I share it or I like it and I retweet it, that's usually an endorsement. So don't worry, bro. We're still doing a podcast tomorrow. Don't you worry about it. But yeah, most of I'm talking about the mainstream media. Of course, when do I not talk about the mainstream media and their shitty articles and their shitty questions? Come on, for the love of God. Can I go on a little rant about the mainstream media for a second? Wake up, guys, okay? You're journalists, okay? First of all, you can't ask closed-ended questions. You have to ask open-ended questions, okay? And second of all, those open-ended questions cannot be leading questions. You know what a leading question is? Google it, goddammit. I feel better. I hope I'm doing Claude Julien a favor here, him and Marc Bergevin. Do I have anything else, Alex? Anyone else? All right, okay. So look, guys, I think I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody on Periscope. Thank you to everybody on Instagram. Listen, the next time I do this, we'll be a little more organized. It's technical stuff. We're doing the best that we can, and it is what it is. So it'll be a little smoother, and hopefully next time, guys, I'm going to open up the phone lines on Skype. Feel free to call in and add more comments. Let me know how you feel. For the time being, to everybody who answered, thank you. I hope to keep doing these a lot more. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, of course. And look, I want to say go Habs, go. But seriously, just make up your mind. Are you winning or are you losing? I'm not the biggest fan of Mario Tremblay, okay? But he made a really good point about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago on L'Antichambre. One of his manchettes, one of his headlines was, please don't finish ninth. for the love of God, if you're going to suck, just suck hard. I'm Andrew Michael Stone. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Mike Stone. And anyways, you're going to see the rest of the thirds. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe if you find this entertaining and I'm not too annoying. And we'll catch you guys very soon. Cheers.